Hey folks, we are diving back into all of this. So give me a hot second here. Looks like I forgot my coffee. So let me grab my coffee. Let me punch my signal here real quick. I should have a video that's operational on the tube now. It is great. So let's go ahead and grab it at a linky link, and then go and then gonna go press, and then I'm gonna go here. We're gonna hit this, and that should put us bop 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 burp. That should put us at speed. So let's go. Here, there we go. All right. So we're continuing this vignettes work. We are building stone paths in the muck today, same as yesterday. Let me. I forgot my coffee. Hold on. Let me grab my coffee. Grab my coffee. I got some sleep, but not enough to prevent me from being inane. So we're going to use some coffee bean courage here. Charge our way through the day. Nice. 2 weeks and I get my teeth out, or I get the stitches out of my gums, and then hopefully the doctors will give me a good bill of health that I'll get new teeth in about 2 months. So all I wanted for Christmas was my 2 front teeth. Yo. How are we looking? Do I look as tired as I feel? Oh, there. I'm futzing this. I don't know why I'm futzing with stuff. I'm sorry. Hold on. Yeah, seriously. Yo, back off, dude. No. I am tired. Holy God. There. Good enough. Alright, so let's get into it. Only came here to watch me futz with Windows. Here, and I'm just doing some we're doing the cleanup effect, so that we're just getting rid of the rough edges first. This is the first time I've done this particular type of mapping process. So what I learned from yesterday was to stay focused on honestly, just stay focused on the task at hand, kid, and you'll end up being okay. So the task at hand right now is to clean up the exterior angles of this to make it look less like boxes and more like corroded stonework in the mud. I reckon we'll probably get back into detailing the fort text boxes inside the adventure, but the goal of the stream here every day is to do visuals. So that is where I want to focus for now, at least until I get tired of drawing boxes, and then I can use the convenient excuse of me writing an adventure to stop drawing said boxes and go right in boxes. So it's an ordeal, yo. We'll keep at it until it's done. That's the job. The job is to keep doing it till it's done. The real torture for an artist, honestly, is to have the image crystal clear in their head and to not care about the image anymore. Like that, I had the image, I'm done with it. That is just like the worst. Sometimes when you're painting or drawing something, or like sculptors, for example, you can see it in your head and it just won't go away until it's manifested visually. But I don't get that a lot. Most of the time when I draw, I have no idea what it is, and it's the act of drawing that reveals the image. And so I don't have the blessing of an image jamming its way out of my skull until it's done, because there's nothing that motivates me about the image once I can visualize it. Like I do the painting because I can't visualize it at all. And the very process of the art is what reveals the image to me. So I'm reiterating myself. It's time for coffee. I can tell it's time for coffee because I am reiterating myself. Let's see. I should have me say a little bit. Oh, coffee courage. Oh man, I can feel that all the way down to my soul. I must be dehydrated. Let's drink more coffee. That'll take care of the dehydration. Abs a tubie. I am. Oh boy, I got some work done last night on the mass combat system, and that I resolved all of the upscaling spell effects for the beneficial the allied buffing spell list. There's like 500 some odd spells in D&D, and when you're building a new, well, I mean, let's face it, when you're upscaling spellcasting to affect creatures at the hundreds of feet and miles range, you're effectively building a new magic system. So when you build a new magic system, just like I did with 5-color mana, the 5-color mana spell point variant rules, you have to go through every spell that exists and find that and really look at, and then later actually field test how different spells interact with the new mechanics you're building. Like a couple of days, you can check down in the link below. A few days ago, I started doing work on a spell point sorcerer for 5-color magic. And the way that the spell point sorcerer works is very similar to 3rd edition in that you can stack meta magic effects. So when you do the WotC did not do that because the spell casting in 5e is a lot more limited than spell casting was in 3rd edition. And 3rd edition had so many spell slots because they charged you multiple spell slots for meta magic and other effects. So they needed to give you a robust mana supply to compensate for how much they anticipated you wasting slots to enhance the spells that you actually do cast. So there is a very different philosophy in 5e in that you want to simplify mechanics in the 5e games in the action and resource economy of 5th edition compared to previous editions. So not allowing sorcery points to stack and use multiple meta magic effects at the same time meant that they didn't have to worry as much about the interaction of meta magic effects on individual spells, effectively allowing themselves to shortcut this exploration process with different types of spells that I'm talking about here. So when you create a new magic system, you have to go through and investigate how each of these are interacting to prevent things that can just break your game. Like for example, in 5-color magic, the Bless spell grants you a plus D4 to all your saving throws, and the 5-color mana spell point system specifically allows you to maintain concentration on multiple spells, but it increases the DC of the concentration check that you're making. So when you take clerics want to take Bless, they want to take Guidance, they want to have these extra D4s floating around on top of them at all times so that they have a much higher chance of succeeding the saving throw when it's forced, because it's going to be so much more difficult to succeed with it. I have to switch screens because because Photoshop just crashed on me. So I am grabbing this boop, boop, and this boop, boop, and here, let's see. I switched because my Photoshop started to lock up in this window. Let's see if it's recovered. Nope, see, it still hasn't recovered yet. So I'm going to have to close this one, save equals yes, and then switch over to this one while it does that business. What was I talking about? Yeah, so Bless. The Bless grants you D4 to your saving throws. The multi-spell concentration mechanics require you to have a higher DC on concentration checks. Period. So having Bless is an automatic. You just want to have Bless so that your die rolls are better. So what does that do? That forces me to introduce the idea of attrition, so that you have a frequency in which you are having to make concentration checks, just because concentrating is hard. So there's these. You can have these cascading effects that start to blow out the scope of the project that you're doing, because you keep finding little caveats that says, well, yeah, but what about this, or what about this, or what about this, or this, or this, or this. So as you go through that process of discovering these little caveats that go in and break the thing that you're trying to do, you have to really noodle through. Is this the right decision to do this or not? And in the example of the 5-color mana spell point variant rules, because attrition is something that the DM can apply basically at will and should. Having Bless be a means of mitigating some of that save is good, but at the same time it requires you to maintain concentration on Bless. So it automatically limits what spells you can concentrate on, because you are playing a defense game. So if you have multiple people in your team that are maintaining concentration, then the Bless is really useful. But if you're the only one that's maintaining spells, then the Bless is a curse, because you're just limiting your ability to cast other spells. Until you get to second tier, you start casting third, fourth level spells. Like fourth level is a really great breaking point, because there's not a ton of stuff. Like third level has a lot of great spells in it, while fourth level has a lot of great spells, but it doesn't. Like the value of seventh level isn't so much that I can concentrate on fourth level spells, it's that I can concentrate on third level spells and Bless at the same time if you're a cleric. So having the ability to cast Spirit Guardians and Bless and maintain both of them indefinitely is really useful in a combat campaign. If you have a high mix of exploration and social challenges, then having Spirit Guardians eating up all your concentration isn't really as useful as you think, until you get into a combat situation. But if you're having exploration and social challenges intermixed between your combat challenges, then there's going to be things that are triggering your saving throw that can destroy your concentration as well. So it's a fun ecosystem of what do I want to maintain concentration on, and what don't I want to. I'm yammering a little bit because I'm tired. But at that same sense, this is the same sort of mechanics. This is the same thought process you have to have when you're developing new rules for spellcasting or new spellcasting systems, which, back to the point, is what the mass combat system effectively is when you are upcasting spells to have say haste impact 700 troops in your squad or in your army. So, long story short, too late. Oh yeah, the point of all that is that I got through all the spells that can impact allies, that can benefit allies, like Crusader's Mantle and haste and all that sort of stuff. Like these are, I got through all of them last night and codified which ones do, which ones don't. I finished codifying which spells can improve communication across large scale combats, so that you can continue to command allies even though they are 3 miles away. How are you going to talk to that guy? Like, well, magic is awesome at that, and it eats up your magic economy. Those are good things. I also resolved commanders sacking hit points for their army, even though the army damage scale is tremendous. I am honestly. It looks like we're going to be pretty good by Thursday. Having all of the core mechanics for the mass combat system done, and start handing those out for people to chew on. They're still very rough. The language is rough, but the concepts I think are solid enough at this point that I can start handing it out to folks to take a look at, and which is exciting. But it's also only half of the book. The mass combat system is the first half of Command. The full title of the book is In Command of Armies, Guilds, and Kingdoms. So we've got the armies figured out, and it's fun because the core mechanics for commanding armies is the same as it is for commanding guilds and then ruling a kingdom. Oddly, the mechanics are ubiquitous. So when you get into using the system, you are effectively learning a new set of 5e mechanics that can apply to anything that's not your character. That was the goal of the project, and it's coming along really, really nicely now that I've babbled about it for like 20 minutes. There, and good. See, now I've gotten this cobblestone integrating into. It's still really rough. Well, I'm going to do a check here real quick. You guys can't see it because of the window hierarchy in my OBS, but I am scrolling through down to the fortress map in the document, in the actual adventure document where we're gathering up all the resources, to see that it is current specs. Yeah. Okay, cool. What happens if I up that to 15? Oh God, I am so excited about that book. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love this Eberron adventure, and it's going to be fantastic when it's done. But I am so excited about the mass combat system in Command. It is so good. Oh my God, it is so. There's like a billion things I can do with this once it's published. It just completely reinvents how to interact with NPCs and scaling things, and there's so many new subclass options that created. Cleric Corner had a fantastic video about Rangers the other day, and if you know, if you type in a search in the YouTube above for the Cleric Corner, or if you go down below and check out my the videos I made about Ravnica Rangers or Color Mana Rangers, that was all inspired by the Cleric Corner and just his random musings about how can you change the flavor on a character class. And just the other day, he did one specifically about Rangers and variant Rangers, what you can do. And he had made the comment of, you could have a sharpshooter ranger that specializes in siege machinery, and we have a section on siege machinery, so we can absolutely build a ranger subclass that deals with siege machinery, utilizing the in-command mechanics for conducting siege battle or ship-to-ship combat. It's all there, and oh my god, it's so good. We can reinvent the encounters in Avernus when you can literally fight the Blood War. you can play a commander in the Blood War and lead your billions of troops to destruction. Spelljammer, no problem. Ship-to-ship combat is super fun. Being able to scale up to the size of the ship and then scaling down to individual battles on the deck of those ships in a smooth, consistent pattern that is 5e compliant with the 5e mechanics it sounds like I am geeking out and bragging about my own work, but it's not. It's very similar to artwork in that I have an idea and I ask the universe, how can I build this? And it answers me with text, and it has me hammer it out. And in that sense, it is very similar to the muse won't leave me alone until I get it out of me. I don't have that curse with painting, but I have that curse with text. When I have an idea about writing, I literally cannot sleep until the ideas are on paper. And just the amazing content that is being gifted to me to add to this game is it's amazing. So hopefully we're going to have Josh over at the Dungeoneers Pack be able to chew on and make use of some of these mechanics that we're developing. Because he's running an Avernus campaign, and so I want to open this up to third parties to start finding the flaws that Ukulele Bard and I have not been able to successfully find yet, so we can make sure it's a solid product. But the mechanics are solid. Now it's just a matter of what do we need to greeble so that the mechanics that we have are fun to implement. And we think we have it. But now we got to put it out to the public to chew on it some more. Anna at Transparent Games has been wonderful in helping playtest. And we are absolutely going to post it to Darren's Terran's Discord, Indestructiboy. He has a critique corner that the game designers there get to go in and chew on new ideas that people are having, and tear apart things that don't make sense and help reinforce things that do. I think this is absolutely going to survive that experience. It's exciting. This is a really exciting system. So once it's done, we get to push it off to edits. The rough idea is there, so then you test the rough ideas to make sure they work, and then you refine the text. There's no sense making the text perfect until the ideas make sense. So once the ideas make sense, you refine the text. Once the text is refined, you send it to edits. Once it comes back from edits, you revise to remain compliant with what those edits are, to make sure the words make sense and be consistent throughout the document with those revisions. And then it goes into layout, which we do on stream. And then once the layouts are done, we drop the pages individually into Photoshop and I paint them. And that is going to be, once we get to that point, that will be my nighttime activity. Like I do this in the mornings. Those mechanics will be in the evenings. The reason I haven't been streaming in the evenings is because I'm not ready for the in-command combat system to be publicly viewed until I know that the playtests come back good and the text is done. Once that process is done, I get to go back and start painting the entire document. It's like without any images and text, without any images, illustrations, figures, and diagrams to explain troop movements and how creatures interact in the in-command system at higher scales. It's sitting around 40 pages just for the combat section of the book. Never mind the kingdom and the guild section. Once the illustrations are actually in the book, it'll probably be 50 pages worth of front end mechanics for basically commanding an infinite number of troops over any duration of a campaign that you want. So let's get back into Sinkholes. I had to shut that document down because the mouse stopped. But see, the mouse is back up and running now. So I dropped my font size down to 10 because 10 is the pixel resolution I'm working with on basic line art. But then you can see in this other document that I'm starting to create darker lines. Those are a 15, so they have a heavier line weight here, so the structure will be able to stand out from the texture. That's really important that you do that because you need to have the visual language reinforcing where am I supposed to be looking at this. Black and white, no color maps make it real easy for you to distinguish between mechanical language and because the decoration of texture and terrain is minimal. But when you start like Christian Zoid's CZ does amazing map work and they're all full color. So when he designs those, he has to be careful about the visual language, about the color language and the contrast that are in those maps because they're full color. The technical language has to read correctly to be able to make the map actually useful. You don't need to be looking at the map and arguing over, is this a wall or is this just something that someone drew on the ground. You have to be able to tell the difference between those things in a heartbeat. And honestly, Christian, he does a great job with it. So I am hoping to live up to those same standards in the production of this piece as well. But that's just looking under the hood a little bit, because that's what we do here. We paint and we talk about painting because watching people paint may or may not actually be interesting. Shout out if I talk too much, or let me know if you like the yammer. YouTube is telling me, by the way, while we're talking about it, please do subscribe and like. It's going to take 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of content viewed for me to be able to monetize this channel and get paid for the time spent on YouTube producing content. The content itself is going to be plenty profitable for me. Because honestly, I gotta do the painting anyway. It's just great that at the end of it, I can sell it, which is a terribly ironic and hypocritical thing for me to say because I do a ton of art in these books that I create, and I don't package them for stock art sales. So, I could be doing that, but that is time taken away from me actually creating new content. The more time I package and market existing content, the less time I have to create new content, which is a constant struggle for independent publishers, third-party small press publishers, and part-time creators like myself. That packaging and marketing the stuff that I create is its own job. So, my struggle. Did I have a point to that? I know I'm on hard ramble right now. Oh yeah, monetization. Yeah, the reason I was bringing that up is because on average about 8 minutes of this video is viewed, and if that's all that you want, I totally get it, and that's fine because I'm going to be putting out content damn near every day, every weekday anyway. And eventually the gods of Tube will be satisfied with the amount of content I produce that they'll allow me to monetize it. And I am looking forward to that day. I only ask that you help me reach the 1,000 subscriber mark so that when I get my 4,000 hours of view, I'll already have the people in place and I'm not then scrambling to find enough people to watch it. But again, the more people that watch the content, the faster I can hit that get the subscriber base and get to the 4,000 hours of watched content. So the nature of this sort of work is fighting the ecosystem of YouTube, in that YouTube general online content viewerships wants shorter, punchier content that they can get the point and then get out and go on to what's next. And the nature of streaming artwork is antithetical to that because it takes hours to produce the thing. I could go in and there's a lot of YouTube artists that I watch that talk about light, because I don't see color. I'm constantly trying to grab up information about how can I make color more realistic in my Photoshop painting, and so I watch a lot of third party, other people content, and a lot of them will speed, they'll talk about their point of concept, but then they'll fast forward the video from the beginning to the end. And I think what they are doing is they're getting really good at scripting information so that they have concise points. And you'll see this on Taryn's channel on Indestructiboy a lot as well, that he'll have a 5-hour art design jam, but then he'll pull pieces of that jam out to be individual conversation points of separate videos. And I think he's really good at encapsulating the conversation, and that is a skill that I am I'm hoping to be able to achieve. Excuse me while my throat chakra clears, empowering me to speak my truth more directly. I hope to get to a place where I am able to have conversation points inside of a larger stream and then pull out snippets from it. Like that conversation about scaling mechanics on building new magic point systems. I could potentially pull that out as a separate 5-minute conversation piece while I'm painting. But I'm so rambly, I'm gun shy about doing it. It also would mean that I need to start time stamping. I need the timestamp where I'm having these conversation points so I can pluck them out, which means I have to go through and listen to my stuff again, which means I have to critique the quality of the content that I listen to, and now that I'm spending more time editing videos than I am producing content for the videos, which is another full-time job. It's a trap, man. Everything you want to do as an independent publisher, independent content producer costs you time. And I am hoping over the next 15 years to get to a point where I'm able to back off what sort of content I don't have to spin all the plates myself physically. I think I want to, long-term goal, I want to continue doing cover painting. I think I want to continue doing cover art and some interior art. I definitely want to continue with mechanics design, but I want to be more into ideation than hammering out text. The spell point sorcerer that I'm building is a joy to discover, but I would like to get to a point where I can just hire a crew of people to take the concepts that I already have exist and then extrapolate it into do this for these type of clerics, do this for an artificer, do this for a warlock. But I have to have people that are willing to do it, which means I have to be able to produce sales. So I have to build the IP of Phil Curry Creations in general to a point where like MCDM has gotten, where it's going to sell because people believe in the vision of the concept and the creation process that we go through. And I will get there. It takes time. Everyone has their audience, and the audience is constantly growing. I am one of the blessed ones of the DMs Guild that when I put something out, it generally, I have I think 2 things on the guild that don't have bestseller medals at this point, and probably it's because the amount of attention I put into the products, like I've been talking about for the past 20 minutes. So I'm going to be quiet for a few minutes here and hammer out some imagery, because that was a long burst. That was a good strong rant for me. So give me a minute here. I think what I'm going to do. Oh, I need to. I don't need to build these. So these things are supposed to be what, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. They're 30 feet wide, and I think I've got good stragglers. I can see that it's proportionately a lot thinner over here. So I need to add some bulk over here. Oh my God! Resident Alien is a TV show that exists on NBC. Not like anyone actually watches television, but Peacock is their streaming service that comes free with Xfinity, Comcast up here in Washington. And it's Alan Tudyk, who, you should know who Alan Tudyk is. If you don't, it's Tudyk. Check him out. Firefly, Wash from Firefly should be enough for you to identify who Alan Tudyk is. But if you don't know what Firefly is, start watching that, because that show is amazing. But yeah, Alan Tudyk, he's an alien that's trapped on Earth, and it's Alan Tudyk, so it's amazing. So check that out. He's great. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, great. So learning from yesterday, and we are going to, instead of finalizing this piece, we are going to, perhaps to the dismay of viewers everywhere, continue doing outlines on the boxes so that I can just sweep through and get all the things done in sequence. This is mass production of Stone Path vignettes. So what's going to happen is probably by Thursday the mass combat system is going to be done, and I'm going to be able to hand it off to Josh and post it on Indestructiboy's Designosphere Discord channel, and let the crews chew on it. There's also some of my friends in Germany that run a table that are also interested in looking at the mechanics and giving me some feedback. So once that process is done, my evenings are opened up again. So I will be able to get back into developing the Spell Point Warlock. Oh my god, I'm so excited about the Spell Point Warlock. So I built the 5-color mana Spell Point variant rule core mechanic book, basically just to get out all the ideas about how you can have a 5-color mana system inside of 5e, and honestly, it's pretty good. But it can be a hell of a lot better, and a hell of a lot better got started with Elemental Key for monks, and in that I introduced the new mana spend format to simplify it, to make it easier, and it allows a lot more mechanical flexibility inside the system, which is something that I desired. My good friend Carol Walter had told me when she knew that I was doing this book, bless her heart, she said, your first go isn't going to be your best. Get it done and then get on to the next thing, because it will not be your best work, and that is proving to be true. It's been good enough. It's an Electrum bestseller, but I want to reward the people. I'm not going to what I'm doing currently is I'm building out specific mana mechanics for each character class, but what I also want to do is once these things are done, I want to restructure the core mechanics book that people have bought so that they get the content that they've already paid for. And when I upgrade something, I leave the original document in a zip file so you can see where the product has gotten to from where it had once been. The whole book is available for people to read 100%. I stream a ton of the content here as well. And then I leave the original document available for people to see how it's developed and where it came from. And some of the concepts that had been in the original work aren't currently in the visible the preview document of core mechanics, because there was some issues with untapping mana, and the issues was it didn't have a strong enough narrative behind untapping, and there wasn't enough mechanical language behind it. So the book is called Tap Untap Burn, like the product line is called Tap Untap Burn, but only the monk has untapping mechanics currently inside of it, unless of course you're like ritual spells like detect magic, comprehend languages, and stuff like that. Those are things that you can, instead of spending 10 minutes as a ritual, you can tap a point of blue to trigger the effect, and when you're done with it, because it's a ritual spell, you can then untap it and regain the mana, because in the 5e system as it exists right now, you wouldn't have spent any mana on it anyway. It's just a ritual. So you may, but like Lehman's Tiny Hut, for example, is like a persistent spell that's going to last 8 hours. So that's something that you would not untap, even though it is a ritual. So the untap mechanics aren't strong for full casters, but they're incredibly strong for martial characters. Like the monk or ranger, eldritch knights, arcane tricksters. So now that I've gotten the actual untap mechanics 2.0 resolved, I have to go in and since I've expanded the color devotion to all the spells, Knights and Tricksters is out of date, so that needs to be updated as well, and I want to change the format of it. So there's like all this stuff. It's such a pain to go back and revise something that's done. It feels like you're moving backwards when you do it. But oh man, the satisfaction of knowing that you can do something better and then providing that better is just freaking fantastic. Feels so good. So I am what's going to happen is my night shifts can open back up for me to start doing the revised mana. I can finish Sorcerer, and once Sorcerer is done, I can go back and I can fix Arcane. I can update Arcane Tricksters. It's not being fixed; it's being updated. I can update Arcane Tricksters, and once Arcane Tricksters is updated, I can build spell point artificers. And once spell point artificers is done, I should be able to go in and start. So it's sorcerers, then knights and tricksters, and then artificers. Once artificers is done, I should be able to start streaming, like full stream. The word I'm looking for is in command, the mass combat system. That should be back from edits, so I should be able to start doing layout and design for that book. If not, that's going to honestly that's going to be dependent on the guild and kingdom system being completed as well, which is fantastic because we have hold on real quick. My brain is bleeding. I have to confirm what I got going on here. One second. There we go. So the Adam Hancock, the creator of Balduran's Guide to Building Kingdoms, is our editor for the In Command book. So that is amazing because when this is done, the In Command book should be able to smoothly transition between Balduran's Guide for Building Kingdoms and the In Command mechanics for operating large-scale battles, and have a much more it's a much faster, like a more concise, like shorthand mechanics for running a kingdom, while Balduran's Guide is a deep dive into really fleshing out a kingdom in depth. So if this thing is built right, it will be a great companion to the Balduran's Guide to Building Kingdoms, and it should be complementary to it. And if I understand correctly, we'll be able to bundle the two things, so that if you already own Balduran's Guide, you can get the command at a discount, and if you don't have Balduran's Guide yet, you can get it and command at a discount. So cheers to that. So it's very possible that in the next couple months, maybe by May, we'll have all the mechanics for In Command done. And hopefully that means by June it'll be done with editing all the pieces, and will officially be in layout. And then we'll have artwork. We'll have night stream artwork for In Command until it's done, and then we'll publish it. And I'm hoping for September publication. So by September, we should have the mass combat system. The greatest news about all of this is that all my timelines are around the 25th. As long as I can get stuff done by 2024. As long as I get all of my current work done by 2024, when the new 5.5 publishes on DMsGuild, I will then be able to go through and revise everything that I've done as necessary to be compliant with 5.5. So I want to make sure that everything I want to get done is actually done when the apocalypse hits, and everyone has to go in and revise their DMsGuild products to be compliant with 5.5. So if you are a DM creator and you're not thinking about that, you really need to be thinking about that. As soon as they start providing information about what 5.5 is going to do to the game system, that is when we're going to start understanding how we have to revise all our subclasses, revise all of our homebrew classes, all the variant mechanic systems that we've built to stay compliant with 5.5. So there could be, hopefully WotC will be providing abundant information about what those changes are going to be, so we aren't too quagmired and the marketplace doesn't go stale. One of the things that I predict about changes that we'll see in 5.5 that I'm fairly confident to make a statement of is what I've implemented with spell point sorcerers, which is when a spellcaster that learns spells gains a level, instead of changing just one spell, you can change all of them. I think one of the complaints in the system is that spellcasters that have only one set of spells that they can cast until they gain a level are really, really limited in that if you have... I mean, you can say that, sure, talk to your DM, they should allow you to switch out your spells. It's another thing to say the rules are when you gain a level, you can swap all your spells. That is something that I have implemented for all known casters, and that will be needs to be updated and reflected in Knights and Tricksters, and will be is already present in Elemental Key, and once I get the chance, and will just be a part of core mechanics once I rebuild that as well. So it's ridiculous how limited known casters, the power level that a sorcerer gets in comparison to a druid or cleric or a warlock or a wizard. It just doesn't exist. It's ridiculous how limited the spell list for sorcerer is considering how little meta magic they actually get, which is something I also fixed with sorcerer. In that spell point sorcerers are able to, they get more spells over the career of their 20 levels, and they can invest as many of those spells as they want into meta magic. If you want to be a one-trick pony casting nothing but fireball, I will give you 25 different ways to cast fireball. And but you get 20 spells. You can learn 20. I wanted to call them lessons, but the mechanics were too clumsy. There's 20 known spells, and you can choose as many of them to be meta magic or spells known as you want. So that's going to allow a sorcerer to have a lot more flexibility on how you express the sorcerer. Yeah, which gets back to the point I was making about designing new spell mechanic systems. Changing meta magic from you can only cast one to you can stack multiple meta magic effects onto one spell means you have to be picky about what meta magic you allow into the game, or if WotC introduces something that breaks your variant rules, you have to be able to adjust and accommodate those new rules. So you have to have a system that is robust enough to warrant being its own thing, while also being light and nimble enough to adapt to the new weirdness that Wizards decides is going to be canon. Like Silvery Barbs was a big upset to a lot of people. To me in particular, because first level spells only cost 1 mana, and that's not bad in comparison to DMG spells casting 2 spell points at first level. Wizards gives you 133 mana as a 20th level wizard, which means you can cast a first level spell 62 times. 66 times, compared to my 80 mana that a 20th level wizard gets, which is 80 first level spells. Honestly, it's not that big of a difference, is it? So at that level, at least, no, it really isn't. It's not breaking the game. But when Silvery Barbs comes in, you have to reconfigure how much modify, like what's the modifier cap for a point of mana. And Wizards has defined that 1 point of mana, according to my mana mechanics, 1 point of mana can affect basically 10 points worth, like 5 points of benefit and 5 points of detriment, because advantage and re-rolling equals effectively a 5. Like on passive perception, if you have advantage on perception, your passive perception increases by 5. So if you have something that grants both advantage and forces a reroll at disadvantage, it's more like 11 or 12 than just straight 10, because the after you know they succeed or not has a higher variable, has a higher mechanical weight than just you have disadvantage. So what WotC has effectively done is say that, a first level, the way that WotC has a spell point system in the DMG on page 288, but it's a variant rule, and WotC designs for spell slots. So it's very, very different to say that Silvery Barbs as a first level spell lets you affect maybe like around 11, 12 points worth of D20 die roll. But in their mind, it's you only have 4 first level spells. So once you use those 4 spells on Silvery Barbs, you're now using second level spells on Silvery Barbs. And that becomes only 5 or 6 points worth of D20 modification per spell level, as opposed to the spell point system that WotC provided in the DMG. They did not design Silvery Barbs around being able to cast it 66 times per day. They designed it around being able to cast it, I think it's, hold on, 4 first, 3 second, that's 10 at third, 13 at fourth, 16 at fifth, 18, 20, 22. They only expect you to cast it 22 times. Because at that point, you're spending a 9th level spell slot on Silvery Barbs, because you burned up all the 4 first, the 3 second, the 3 third, the 3 fourth, 3 fifth, the 2 sixth, the 2 seventh, the 1 eighth, the 1 ninth at 20th level. You only have 24 spells per day, period. Unless, of course, you're a wizard and you have your signature spell be spell mastery be Silvery Barbs. In which case, you have infinite number of Silvery Barbs that throws everything to the wind, and they don't care anymore. So when Wizards of the Coast built Silvery Barbs, theoretically, they thought, well, everyone at most is going to have 23 castings of this, not 66, except for the wizard, who could have infinite if he chooses. But if he has infinite Silvery Barbs, he does not have infinite shield. So it's okay, because you're not getting a +5 bonus to your armor class, which is also effectively a +5 die modifier, which can apply as many times as you are attacked per round, because wizards aren't supposed to be attacked. They're supposed to stay off the main line, the front line, and avoid being attacked, except, archery is a thing. And others like enemy warlocks are theoretically a thing, which really speaks to the action economy of the game. Like creatures, NPCs aren't supposed to have character classes. Character classes are player things, which means that like Eldritch Blast isn't something that NPCs are supposed to have access to. They have their own multi-attack options. Eldritch Blast is the warlock's multi-attack option. So they don't talk about these things directly. Like, they don't have design notes that Wizards provides for us to understand the philosophies behind their game. They just provide us the game, and we have to extrapolate these ideas from it. So it's an interesting economy on how different designers translate the power curves of like homebrew content that they produce. I think I'm going to make a bold statement here, and I might have to eat my hat in the future when I do this, and I can already see how I'm a hypocrite regarding it. But I think the biggest difference between homebrew and third content production design is I think professional content attempts to consider how what they create is impacting the rest of the game before they decide to publish that content, as opposed to homebrew is more like, this is a cool idea that I had and I'm putting it out there for people to look at. I honestly don't know if this idea is going to damage the game. A professional designer that is asking for money for their product has already taken into account and adjusted their content to address how is this going to impact the rest of my game if I implement this. So the stuff that I build are mostly variant rules that are like for example, the new Tal'Dorei druid, the 2 moon druid, allows you to concentrate on 2 spells at once, and this was a sore spot to me because it's multi spell concentration, which is a mechanic that I have, and I'm not angry because I'm protective of my content. I'm angry because it took me a long time to figure out what can you do to implement multi-spell concentration and not break the game. As opposed to, oh, wouldn't it be cool if you allowed, there's 2 moons in the sky of Tal'Dorei, wouldn't it be cool if the moon druid could concentrate on 2 spells at once? And seems to be about as far as they've taken the thought process behind that. And like, if that sounds cool, let's publish it. That's a homebrew mentality, as opposed to the snobbery that I'm sitting on right now, which is professional third-party content design. Like, if you're going to introduce the mechanic of maintaining concentration on 2 spells at once, you should at least address the fact that Moonbeam requires you to spend bonus actions to move a Moonbeam. It may be implied that, well, if I'm going to maintain concentration on 2 at once, it's implied that you can only move 1 Moonbeam at once with a bonus action. But when I asked the question online, there was 5 different answers on how it should be handled, because there are no rules about how it is handled. And so, like, a home brewer will put out an idea, hey, wouldn't it be cool if if this character class can maintain concentration on multiple spells at once. It's another thing to say, because we allow this character to maintain concentration on more than 1 spell at once, here's all the ramifications that go into it, and here's how your DM should resolve questions if they come up regarding this effect. And now that you are putting out there, yeah, you should be able. This class can maintain concentration on more than 1 spell at once. Then it is opening the door to other designers to say, well, maybe I should allow you to maintain concentration onto flaming spheres at once. And that's one of the examples that I use in the mana mechanics book, the core mechanics of, an example of maintaining 2 spells at once. How do you resolve the action economy of controlling them? Like, if you have spiritual weapon and flaming sphere active at once, but you can only control have 1 bonus action per round, how do you resolve having multiple spells active at once that allow you to manipulate them with a bonus action? Well, in my opinion, the answer is one spell per bonus action. And that should be, in my opinion, the answer to any DM that's going to allow multi-spell concentration. But if your product isn't directly answering that question, you haven't addressed the idea that someone's going to ask that question. If you're going to create a new rule, it is on you to provide supporting mechanics to confirm how those rules should be implemented. So that's my personal philosophy. You can disagree with me if you want, but if you're introducing new mechanics that change how a system works, then it is on you to provide the caveats and all the exceptions that how is this going to work at your table. That is what makes a professional design versus homebrew. I have thought it through, I have done the testing, I have seen the results, and you should know this, and this is going to happen at your table when you implement this. And when it does, DMs, your response to it should be X, Y, and Z. Or the responses that we find are A, B, and C. So that is our recommendation, though you are obviously able to rule as you please. But you should be able to address those points. So that's where my snobbery in game design comes from. It's like, did you do the math? Does it actually work? Like I got asked once, with the mana system that I built, is the point cost for a damage spell is that off skew? Is it appropriate for you to have 1 mana per spell level when spell damage the damage that a spell does has been calibrated to spell slots? And the answer to that question, in short, is my mana system is a blend of how spell slots and DMG spell points work. So when WOTC placed a spell point system in the DMG, that is the meter in which you measure is a spell point system too powerful or not. You compare it to what you're able to do with spell slots versus what you're able to do with the DMG page 288 spell point system. And if what you have provided is more elegant and doesn't change the power curve, then what you have done is good. And I appreciate questions like that. What isn't appreciated is when people ask questions without understanding the back end, like when you're showing your work. If they don't understand that the work you've shown, what that work is explaining, like that it becomes an irritation, because I have not done a good job explaining things. Like in an offhand conversation, if you're arguing with me about mechanics, we haven't actually read any of the content that's related to it. That becomes frustrating, because you're having to not only explain Wizard of the Coast's design philosophy, you then have to explain what you've changed about that philosophy to implement the rules that you have. So you're having to teach people how to play D&D, and then you're having to teach them how you play D&D. And that is super frustrating. If you are going to question why someone makes a change in content when they design something or homebrew something, make sure you understand the source material first before you start questioning why they decided to make a change. And when they do, realize that your opinion is going to be a hot take at best because you have no idea what you're talking about. Like if you've never played a cleric before and you're questioning whether or not the channel divinity should be available more often than 2 uses per short rest, spend some time playing a cleric or DMing a cleric and see how that actually plays out before you decide, nah, they should be able to channel more stuff. So sorcerers are kind of the same way. I'm implementing a rule that's going to allow you to maintain, that's going to allow you to use more than one meta magic at once. But I've had sorcerers in my game. I've seen meta magic play out, and honestly, it's pretty lackluster. But you also have to take into account if I'm going to stack multiple meta magic onto one casting of the spell. How am I punishing you by charging more sorcery points? What limitations do you need to have on using those additional sorcery points so that they're staying in curve with the power level of the tier of adventure that you're playing inside of? And what are the weird interactions that may exist? There are literally hundreds of meta magic feats in 3rd edition when meta magic got introduced, and I am only allowing about 25 of them into 5th edition, period, because a lot of them just don't work well in 5th edition at all, and translating them into something that will make sense is more lifting than it's worth. Like energy admixture, for example, is a meta magic feat from 3rd edition that allows you to blend in multiple types of damage and then add 50% of one type of damage on top of 100% damage of another type. It's like you could have a mix of radiant damage and fire damage, and so your fireball, instead of doing 8d6 fire damage, does 8d6 fire damage and 4d6 radiant damage. That, considering that you can already upcast a fireball, that scaling is weird. Like for you to get 4d6 additional damage on a fireball, it's going to cost you 2 additional spell levels. So is it appropriate for you to spend 2 sorcery points to increase the damage by 50%? At 3rd level, with a fireball, yes. With Flame Strike already doing 2 types of damage as a 4th level spell, no. So it's more complicated than that. You can't just say this is going to increase the damage 50%, because you have to make sure that 50% upscale damage is consistent across all spells that deal damage. And it's too mechanically complicated to make balance just to offhand say, yeah, that's worth an additional 2 levels of spell. It's more complicated than that. It's too complicated to allow that one option back into 5th edition when it was already abandoned by Wizards of the Coast. I can see why they let that one go, because the upcast philosophy in 5e is not the same as it was in 3e, because 3e scales spell levels differently than 5e does. 5e values spell slots more than 3rd edition does. So it's more picky about what meta magic it allows in. So I can't just take all the 3rd level meta magic, introduce it into 5e, and then let you add them all together willy-nilly. It's just, no, there has to be more rules than that. Which next week we'll be spending time on stream in the evenings walking through that thought process. So if this conversation is interesting to you, definitely make sure you subscribe. Follow me on Twitter so that you can see when I'm jumping on stream. If you subscribe here, you'll get a notification that Phil's gone live. So jump on board with all that stuff. And oh my God, it's 7:57. So let's pan back and gaze in wild-eyed wonder at the joys that we have produced. 1, 2, 3. Oh my God. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Okay, great. Hey, that was my stream. I rambled about a lot of stuff that's not Eberron today, and it's probably because I went to bed thinking about in-command large-scale battle mechanics. So that's where it's got us today. But hopefully you liked watching me draw while I ranted. Subscribe, like, follow my Twitter, check out my other stuff. I rant a lot. That's just kind of how we do. So hopefully you're on board with the thought processes. Please ask me questions about anything. I'm happy to hear you, and I love the engagement. I appreciate you spending time with that. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you another time. Cheers.